And I have started shooting again.
You have? And
I have been in the gym, guys. It's hilarious.
What have you texted me after every time that you shot?
Still got it.
Welcome back, everybody. We have our very first breaking news episode. WNBA free agency has arrived. Another trade, in addition to the 3-team trade earlier this week, plus also the Unrivaled ratings are in, and we're going to talk all about that.
Also in is Naomi Girma's fee, her transfer fee, which is breaking records in women's soccer. And we have a new, are you a Megan or are you a Sue? Make sure you hit subscribe on our YouTube to weigh in the comments section because we do check those things.
I'm Megan Rapinoe.
I'm Sue Bird.
And this is A Touch More. Let's get into it.
Support for A Touch More comes from L'Oreal Paris. A very cool thing we got to do on the show last year was getting to share the stories of L'Oreal Paris Women of Worth alumni. We heard from Star Davis, Ashley Rhodes-Corder, Shannon McPeak, and Brianna Daniel. All incredible nonprofit leaders making huge differences in their communities. But what does the future hold? Stick around to hear more about how the change-making women in your very own community can also become L'Oreal Paris Women of Worth.
The check-in. Breaking news as we're recording right now on Tuesday. Alyssa Thomas has been traded to the Mercury. But before we get into that, everyone talked about the Storm Aces Sparks trade being the domino that needed to fall. Well, it fell. Sue, take us through it.
The domino has fallen. I think everybody, once word hit the street that this was pending, everybody was waiting for this trade to go through. So yeah, it's been exciting. There was a 3-team trade, as reported by Kevin Pelton on ESPN. The 3-team trade fulfills Lloyd's trade request by sending her to the Las Vegas Aces to replace Plum, who will join the Los Angeles Sparks via sign and trade after the Aces use their core designation to take her out of free agency. Meanwhile, the Storm move up from number 9 to number 2 in April's draft, which could facilitate, this one gets a little tricky, but which could facilitate an offer to land the number 1 pick from the Dallas Wings if top prospect Paige Beckers of the UConn Huskies prefers not to play in Dallas. Those are Kevin Pelton's words, not mine. Those are Kevin Pelton's words, not mine.
That's an ambitious
We'll
thing.
leave that right there.
Paige would have to go back for her 50th year of college or threaten to do so, which I don't think anybody believes is going to happen.
We'll leave that right there.
At this point, I can't see Dallas being enticed by almost anything to give that up. But
well, I see a world, but we'll leave that right there.
Okay.
This is all technically not super duper official, sources say and all the good things, just because these players all have to sign come February 1st. To make it official.
Oh, like the official day that you can lock it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But with that, Megan, I want to hear your reactions.
Well, I feel like this is like a pretty good deal for everyone. I feel like every team got something really good. It wasn't just like future picks or like this or that. I mean, I think especially with a player requesting a trade, that always gets a little tricky. Teams then know that players want to leave. And so, like, what's the market for that? I thought this was great for our Storms. Obviously, getting the number 2 pick, moving up. Do we still have the 9?
No.
Okay, that
yeah. So there's
went
other
away.
Parts of the trade.
Okay, just not as exciting.
Los Angeles receives the number 9 pick in 2025 and a 2026 second round pick from Seattle. The Aces will get the number 13 pick in 2025 from the Sparks.
So the Storm getting the number 2 pick and also Lee Yarrow, who is like 6'7".
Yeah,
and
people aren't talking about it enough.
Yeah, I feel like this is really good.
Yeah, people aren't talking about Lee enough. That is a huge signing. She's really skilled. She's young. She's on a low money contract, but really skilled at 6'7". She might even be 6'8".
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. She's really good.
Height is queen. The Aces obviously having to replace Kelsey, and you get another great player in Joel. We'll see how much of the ball gets around. That's a lot of shooters and a lot of people who need the ball, but also Kelsey needed the ball too. So I feel like more good players is always good. And then Plum getting to go. She's got a great young team there in LA and getting something new. And it seems like she's just like off to a different challenge. You said this, but for both Kelsey and for Joel, like they've won championships. And so maybe they're just like looking for something different in their career. And I think this will be really interesting. I'm interested because it just like shakes things up instead of the narrative around the Aces being like, can they continue to turn the screw with the same roster? Not that it's a bad roster, obviously, but it just like is a new narrative and like, how's it going to work? It's just like a new storyline all over the place. So I'm excited.
Yeah, well, Becky
What about
Hammond
you?
at the end of the season, even literally right when the Aces lost in the playoffs, made reference to possibly having to shake things up in the offseason. So I'm sure we're going to see that clip 8,000 times as everyone talks about this trade. Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think given the landscape, which you already mentioned, meaning, you know, as Kevin Pelton said, Jewel did request a trade. You would assume Plum gave the go-ahead in a sign and trade you do to go to LA. So it seems like both players are happy. But given the landscape of players of that caliber at that money requesting trades and or players who got cored, it can be really difficult to pull off any trade that's successful. So when I look back on this 3-team trade, I think everybody gets like a pretty good grade. I think they did it. They did the damn thing. But like I said, you know, when there's a request or a core, cores can be tricky. Plum was cored. That got done. Then you've got Satu, who was cored, so TBD on that, and Alyssa Thomas, who was cored, whose trade has just been announced, obviously not finalized yet. They're in the midst of that, but it'll send Alyssa Thomas away from Connecticut, the team she was drafted by, the team she's carried to finals, the team she's played her whole career with, to the Phoenix Mercury. It's pretty interesting. I need to see the full trade before I can have a proper reaction.
Yeah.
But I think that's it's pretty significant. And aside from, you know, getting AT, Phoenix also has Brittany Griner, who has said she's going to test free agency. So that's a TBD. Obviously, Diana's considering retirement, so they're waiting on that. I mean, before it's all said and done, the Phoenix Mercury might look real different. Real different. But yeah, we're going to wait to see what the trade actually is to have full comments. You know, as we mentioned before, none of this can be finalized till February 1st anyways. As Megan mentioned, we're recording this on Tuesday, so we'll have more to talk about soon.
Well, I love it personally. More action. Give us action.
You just like trades.
I just like trades. I just like things shaken up.
I was like, oh, you love it. Why? Oh, do you like trades?
I just like trades. I just want all this action to go, and it's happening, and it's fun. I think it's interesting. There's more ability for player movement, but I think everybody's just like more incentivized, do things. Like, I love it. Okay, moving on, because that was really the only, you know, big movements thus far. The Unrivaled ratings are in for viewership and all the things. Any takeaways, Sue? What are your thoughts?
They had a great opening night. I think Unrivaled, by every metric, has been super successful. They peaked at 364,000. They averaged 313,000 viewers. But I think the real story, and it's something we're seeing in all sports right now, I think the real story is in like social media impressions. They had 31 million views on their Bleacher Report Women's Sports TikTok alone. And like I said, it's something we're seeing in sports all over the place. Everybody's been talking about NBA ratings and viewership, NFL ratings and viewership. Interestingly enough, both are down. NFL is still higher than the NBA, but both are down. So at what point do you start talking about the other ways people are consuming sports nowadays? My favorite story is like you look at an NBA game and the viewership and it's whatever, still doing pretty well. And then you look at Wemby, you know, who went to Madison Square Park to play chess and like hundreds of millions of people
Even I saw
engaged
that.
and watched it. Exactly. So Megan, you know, it's something we've talked about is do we have to start looking at this differently?
Yeah, I think we should rethink it. I think maybe we need to just like either add to the word viewership or just scrap it all together and find something new. It's like, is it ratings? Is it viewership? Is it engagement? Is it impressions? Like, it all matters. Prior, it was like there was one way to consume sports and you had this one metric to capture it. And so we can't reasonably think that all of those numbers are going to stay the same or go up when there's like a million different offerings for people. So whether it's social media or whether people are just watching clips or, you know, I'm thinking about Unrivaled. Like, does it matter if people sit down and watch the whole game or if they watch just clips of it or if they're just consuming it through TikTok? It's kind of like the eyes are on the product. And I think that is sort of what matters most. So I think going forward, yeah, we need a more 360 way to sort of capture that all, or at least think about that. Like you said, with the, with the NFL, the NBA, okay, ratings might be down, but what does that mean about social media? People are consuming it in a different way. It might not, sort of on the surface mean what it says you think it's meaning, but there's so many more options now. And I think it's great that there are these options for fans to engage in a different way for whatever reason. Maybe they like it better. Maybe they miss the game. Maybe they don't have that platform and they can consume in a different way. I think it's great all around. And I think we need to start sort of like talking about it in a more holistic way. I think especially around women's sports, who hasn't traditionally had that sort of like one metric, whether it's because underinvestment or not being on TV, or not having those numbers. The fans have always had to be really creative in the way that they consume. And so I feel like women's sports in general, the fans are really like primed to consume in a different way, in a more like multi-medium type of way.
Yeah, I think the way I feel about it and kind of what I'm hearing is we can't overreact in a sense to some of the viewership numbers because there's just a larger story. What I find really interesting is that the WNBA ratings and viewership are up, which I love. Hopefully that continues. So that's what I'm saying. It's like it's a piece of the pie, but it's not the whole pie, but you do have to take it into consideration. And that kind of leads me to, why are the TV deal? I feel like this might have somebody ask themselves, well, then why are these networks paying all this money? It's still live sports. Yes, viewership might be down, but it still has a value that right now, in the way that people are consuming, that is how people are sitting down in front of their TVs. And maybe, whether it's like traditional cable or whether they're streaming it, whatever it is, you're still getting people sitting down that way. So that's why the rights still do have incredible value. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see how that's all going to like play out in the next 3, 5, 10 years.
Well, people are just consuming more also, and there's more ways to consume. So it's giving them the opportunity to still watch TV. I think the WNBA numbers actually speak a lot to like breaking into this like traditional style, or like this traditional viewership, which is great. And also their growth on social is really up and wild. So it's like offering people, this whole thing where, yes, it still matters that people are watching on TV, but there's a lot of other ways to watch as well.
You're making me think, like, at what point do we, like me and you as a couple, sit down and really figure out how much money we're spending on like our cable, our apps?
No, we're not doing it. Every time I start to do
sometimes
quick,
I'm like,
rough
man,
math, I'm like, no.
all of it.
We have everything. It's like, you have to.
Yeah.
I know. We should probably we're not doing it, but
anyways.
Not doing it yet.
Last week, I had a little moment where I lamented over the fact that finding the stats on the Unrivaled website wasn't that easy. So 2 things. One, I'm going to give a shout out to a Reddit fan whose name is I'm No Expert But, who made their own stat sheet. I mean, this thing was
good.
Yeah.
I was had even the little highlighter as you went down the names.
It was really impressive. And then I went to the Unrivaled website, and now they do have a stats toggle. And I'm just like, was it always there and I just missed it? So that's possible. But shout out to them. They also need to make an app now. Is that am I asking too much?
Make an app, do it.
An app would be
Your
great.
lamenting was heard. You should lament more. Not to me, though, because I can't build stuff like that.
I'm aware.
You should lament to the masses about it. Okay.
Girls who code.
What? Yeah. Okay, back to what's actually being done on the court that provides the stats. The players actually playing the games. Okay, the Unrivaled recap. Another great week of games. Sue, what'd you see?
The Laces and the Owls still doing it. 2 big wins. Still undefeated.
They're really good.
They're really good.
Yeah.
It goes without saying. Laces are still balling. They had some incredible play from Tiffany Hayes, Kayla McBride. Yeah, you can go look the numbers up. They've both been playing phenomenally. There was a scenario where, sadly, Alyssa Thomas got hurt in one of their games, didn't play in their most recent game. So I do want to shout out Steph Dulson for picking up the slack there. But you can just tell the Laces are a team that, I said this last week, have found their identity quickly. I think their roster really allowed for that like the combination of players, but they found it quickly. I think it was on Friday night, they brought Courtney Williams into the booth.
Sensational.
Which was amazing.
I'm watching
she
that
was
show
so good.
every time. Watching every season and every episode of Courtney Williams' show.
She actually pointed out something that we haven't talked about with the Laces, which is their defense. We've talked a lot about their offense. Their defense is also something that I think teams are having a lot of problems with. They've got defenders on that team. And we still haven't seen Jackie Young.
It's wild. I mean, it's going to be scary.
It's crazy.
Yeah, another two-way player.
Yeah. So that's it for the Laces. We'll get to the Owls in a second. But something else that we both noticed and we're talking about during these games the last week was all the hot mics. The coaches have hot mics. We've got cameras in the huddle.
Everything's hot.
I don't like it.
No?
No, I don't like it.
You hate it?
Yeah. How do you feel about it?
Well, I'm kind of thinking like, again, to the viewership and sort of the overall business, like, is this another way to differentiate in the viewability of the broadcast? It's just going to be different from the W. And you're getting something that you wouldn't see in even college or in the WNBA. And I think it's like interesting, sort of what I was saying last week or the week before about the kind of like mega cast or getting the fans more involved or having it be just like more engaging in some kind of way. I'm kind of into it.
And I'm like, I could pretty much run every team's plays right now.
I'm
like, oh, pistol with a step up and a flare on the backside. Great. Like, I don't know. It's like they're saying their play calls.
Yeah,
they're talking.
I don't catch
You're
any
catching
of that.
all their late game, like not just offensive schemes, defensive schemes. There was one time where a coach was like, you guys aren't doing our defensive scheme. What are you supposed to do on sloot? Go under, which is kind of like,
Yeah.
Do you want people hearing you say that? Somebody got hurt the other night. And a coach was like, she's fine. It's like, do we need to see those things?
Was she fine?
I mean, she ended up being fine, but do we need to see that?
Yeah. But
So
then,
I
you
don't
know,
know.
the players and coaches have to know now that that's part of it and adjust.
Yeah,
And then
good luck.
that becomes strategy.
Good luck. Oh, you're going to
If
like
you-
change it up?
If
and-
you were playing, would you be
It's
watching
more-
these games and picking?
it's more the after the
cherry-picking these?
fact.
Yeah.
It's that players and coaches can watch these things and pick up calls. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not having an impact. I don't know. I think we should see how the players feel about this.
Yeah. All right. Bring them in.
Well, you're on the screen, bro. Oh, you're on the screen.
Well, they hate it.
Well, they hate it.
Yeah.
Well, they hate
As
it.
it turns out, they hate it.
I mean, I get that. I get that. But, you know, then
No,
you
I
got to
hear you,
stand
though.
up
It
in front of the
adds.
board.
It's additive. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it is just like a different
Yeah.
little like element. That's
if you're
like,
going to teach and
that's
educate
interesting.
that way, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But otherwise, don't steal my play calls.
Yeah, I feel like as a player, I would be like, get out of here. But I'm not. I'm not a player.
You're not a
I'm just a fan. I'm just a viewer.
All right. So last week I asked you your picks. You picked
Yeah.
The Mist.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up taking a couple L's this week.
Yeah.
What did you see?
Well, I wouldn't put your money on my lines. That's for sure. I feel like they're having to work really hard for everything. I don't know exactly what this means, but I just feel like other teams are getting a lot of easy baskets, and it doesn't seem like the Mist are getting the amount of easy buckets that the other teams are getting. So
They did have some
you need to
injuries
tell me
that they
what's-
dealt with.
Yeah, what's going? Yeah, Joel was out.
Joel's out a
for a
game.
game.
Dejanay Carrington's been out
Yeah.
2 games.
What's going on though? You tell me. Because I thought they were going to win, and
this
they
is
didn't.
your team. You're the expert.
I know. I feel like Stewie was playing better.
Yeah, Stewie's definitely
and-
playing better.
and being more involved. So maybe it's just, they're just kind of taking longer to sort themselves out. But I don't know. Maybe they need some more pick and rolls.
Maybe they need some pistol with a step up and a flare on the backside.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't even think that's
and then
possible.
like ghost the screen and just
Okay,
go
Ghost.
from there. Get in the short roll.
A little peel
and-
out.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope they're listening, because I'm listening to them in the huddle. Yeah, I'm not really sure there, but I hope that they get some wins. I hope everybody gets some wins.
Yeah.
Support for A Touch More comes from L'Oréal Paris. For L'Oréal Paris, the slogan, "Because I'm worth it," was never meant to apply just to outward appearance. It's always been about being confident in who you are, what you do, and how you impact others. That's why each year, for the last 19 years, L'Oréal Paris has launched a nationwide search for 10 extraordinary nonprofit leaders to be named Women of Worth. Each honoree receives $25,000 to support their charitable cause, mentorship from the L'Oréal Paris Network, and a national platform to amplify their stories and their work, and to remind powerful women that they can be the ones to define their own worth. And you can be a part of that reminder. Nominations are now open, and Women of Worth honorees are nominated by people in their own communities who have felt the impact of their work. You can nominate a local leader, your neighbor, your friend, or even yourself. Even if you don't feel worthy of a nomination, I can promise you that you are. Nominations for the 2025 Women of Worth program are open now through March 8th, 2025, International Women's Day, on l'orealparis.com. Okay, so for the first 2 weeks of Unrivaled, you've been going through teams. There's only 2 teams left that you haven't gone through the roster. So give it to us. We have Phantom and Rose left. Stu, what's up with these teams?
Well, the Phantom are 1 and 3. Their roster is made up of Natasha Cloud, Satu Sabali, Marina Mabry, Sabrina Ionescu, Katie Lou Samuelson, and Brittany Griner. We have not seen Marina Mabry, so the Phantom, as well as the Rose, which I'll get to in a second, are 2 teams that I was speaking earlier, how the Laces, their identity has been found fast. They're off to this great start. These 2 teams strike me as the type that could make a push at the end. Once they find themselves, it's gonna be tough. So like I said, Marina hasn't played yet. BG started to establish herself though. She had 29 in one of their games this week. Also Sabrina didn't play their last 2 games. That's a factor.
Yeah.
But the good news for them is Satu, similar to Stewie, a little rough in the first week or 2, starting to find herself, starting to find her game, starting to figure things out. Which takes me to the Rose. They're also 1 and 3. Brittany Sykes, Angel Reese, Kalia Copper, Chelsea Gray, Lexi Hull, Azurá Stevens. So as I said, this to me is really a team. If I had to pick one of these 2 even, in terms of who could make a late push, it would be the Rose for sure.
Okay.
I think once Kalia Copper and Brittany Sykes start to really impact the game more, start to find themselves in this style, I mean, they're 2 players that can really give you fits. So they're doing all right. I know it's not showing up in the win column, but Chelsea Gray looks great. Even Lexi Hull, she started to find herself a little bit. I love Azurá and Angel Reese's versatility out there at the post spot. So I don't know. It could be interesting if they, like I said, if they find themselves.
I mean, we're only 4 games in. There's obviously a lot of basketball left to be played. But in those 4 games, anything else you want to highlight? Anything else that's sticking out for you?
You can't talk about this league right now without talking about Napheesa Collier. I mean, balling the fuck out. She's
dominating.
Killing. This week alone, she had 37 and then 19 in both their wins. You know what the Owls do after every win?
I do.
You want to hit the people with it?
Hootie hoo! That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was decent.
Yeah, right. I've heard it a lot because they're winning all the time. So everyone is saying it.
Yeah, the Owls are right up there with the Laces, obviously. I mean, based on record, based on play.
Yeah.
But you can't, like I said, you can't talk about them and not talk about Napheesa. You can't talk about this league and not talk about Napheesa.
One of the founders.
And then something else that, we've both talked about, again, that you can't talk about this league without talking about is the role that some of these injuries are playing, the role that some of these DNPs are playing. It's just something I think similar to what we were saying about conditioning playing a role. I think injuries are going to impact this league in a way as it goes, impact each team. It's going to play a significant role in how these teams do moving forward. So just keeping our eye on it. You got Natisha Heidelman in there just bopping around team to team. She's that player. It reminds me of the bubble. In 2020, when certain players were just in the bubble and they got signed by multiple teams.
Yeah.
One day you show up, they're a Mystic. The next day you show up, they're
I think it's great. We're going to take it to the YouTube comments because there's been some
we check them.
Because we do check them. And there's been some good ones. And this is also questions that I've been asking Sue about her participation, in a former life in this Unrivaled little basketball league. Okay, the YouTube comment from Heather. Imagine a Sue and D backcourt and any big and Unrivaled. I can't live in the past, but man, oh man, that would have been a dream. Stephanie also wrote on
I mean, they
YouTube.
had the dream. It's called the Olympics.
Yeah.
But it's called
Not
UConn and the
3x3
Olympics.
though, Sue. Stephanie on YouTube wrote, come on, Sue, put together a retired player team.
Ooh, a retired player team is interesting. A retired player team is interesting. And I have started shooting again.
You have. And
I have been in the gym, guys. It's hilarious.
What have you texted me after every time that you shot?
Still got it.
Still got it. All caps.
She can't move, but she can shoot.
Yeah, you don't need to move that much.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in Unrivaled you do, but
She can't move quite the same, but the ball still goes in.
it's still good. Listen,
And I'm like
shooter's gonna
delusional
shoot.
because I play the same shooting games I played when I was a professional basketball player, and I get low-key irritated. I can't get my times. Like, make this amount in this, I low-key get mad. High-key get mad.
Give yourself a month. You'll be right back in shape.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you could play.
We're going this week.
Yeah.
It'll be Megan's first
I'll be
appearance.
back in my rebounding role.
Yeah, get those forearms ready.
Yeah. It's like shooting is like kind of fun for me, but then also I get really tired in my arm. So, and then it's hard and then I miss a lot. And I'm like, you know what? It's probably better if I just rebound.
Well, it's going to be more of a 50-50 scenario.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
I'm not
going to
make you
fun.
rebound the whole time. That's
Okay.
insane.
Because I did it for you because I loved you, but like,
Well,
it was
COVID. There was,
and COVID. Yeah.
yeah.
But I liked it.
no,
but
I would never make
wasn't
you.
wasn't my most favorite
Rebound.
activity. Anyways, it got us thinking about the retired players.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We're going to play a little game. Using only retired players as your pool,
Okay.
who would be your Unrivaled team?
Okay. Well, I knew we were going to play this game, so I jotted down some names.
Well,
So I
obviously.
wouldn't forget. Okay, so it's 6 spots. I do want to start by saying Diana Taurasi and Angel McCautry, 2 people that I would likely pick, are not technically retired.
They're out of the running.
I shouldn't even take technically out. They're not retired.
You got to say it. If
So
you
they're
want to
not
be in
Yeah.
contention
You gotta
and
have a big
eligible
R
for
next
Sue's
to your-
team.
A big R
yeah,
next to your
capital
name.
R.
Okay, so after some thought, I would go Maya Moore.
Good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
she's-
went on a limb there.
She's really good.
Okay, I'd go Maya Moore, Tamika Catchings,
yeah.
Candace Parker,
Ugh.
Cappy Pondexter.
Yeah.
And then I'm really, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm the 5th, right?
Obviously.
Because I have to, okay.
Somebody has
So
to
I'm on
play
it.
the point guard.
And then I'm really torn on this last spot. It's between Katie Smith, Penny Taylor, and there is one other player, but I don't know if you're familiar with her. So I asked them to pull up some clips, and you can help me decide between Katie, Penny, and her. All right, let's see it.
Okay. No. Sue. Why is this? Why are we even deciding?
She likes to wear a bandana and low tops.
Yeah, listen, she's unorthodox.
Her socks match her hair. So
They
she's
do.
ready. She's ready for
Did
the
you see the
tunnel fit.
contest?
She's ready for the tunnel fit. Up,
Yep. Oh,
turn it around. Up,
there's-
turned her head. Can't do that. Can't do that. You remember that, right?
I do. Honestly, shining moment for me. It's
Yeah.
the closest I'll ever get to playing in the WNBA, which is a dream of mine.
Yeah. We were so just for context, we were in the bubble. It was obviously very restrictive on who could be in
Yeah.
there.
I
And
was
so
in.
You were in. And so whenever you had a situation where, players were taking practice days off, literally like the film guy,
Yeah.
our physio,
Anyone,
the
everyone.
assistant coaches. You saw Noelle Quinn, who was an assistant at the time. She
Yeah.
popped in. And then one day it was like, Megan, we need
I was so
a
ready.
body.
I was like, absolutely.
I
Let me
know.
get my headband on. Not pictured is Stewie absolutely trucking me with the screen and no
Yeah.
one saying man on.
I know. And it was just a drill that we do where we're just kind of like passing it around, cutting a little
I got
bit.
lost.
You can't really shoot. You're just kind of, and yeah, it was so funny.
I feel like my defense
All
is
of
pretty
us
good.
could not stop laughing.
I would be, I
you
would
were
have
like the team mascot. And I say that in the most like warm, loving way. Anytime you came to practice, because it got, we were there for like 3 months.
Can't
it got
imagine.
real
Stale.
mundane in
Yeah.
there. Yeah. And every time you came to practice, it was like this bundle of joy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Team
Yeah,
mascot.
listen, I got to bring the vibes.
Yeah.
I loved
So-
coming to practice.
Yeah.
I mean, you had your team at least to practice with. I was just practicing with Miguel out on the
Yeah,
field.
Miguel.
Shout out Miguel. Man, he really saved me.
Yeah,
But I
Megan
had
was
to-
training.
I
Megan
was
was still
training.
training for the soccer. And so she had to get up at like 7 a.m. when it was.
No, I started training at 7 a.m.
Okay, so she had to get up at 6 a.m.
It was
Actually, how did
tough.
I forget
Otherwise,
that?
it was 984,000
she had
degrees.
to avoid the humidity.
Oh, I've never been so hot in my life the whole time.
So that's my team. That
Okay,
last spot. If I had to pick.
So it's Maya, Tamika, Candace, Cappy, Megan, and Sue.
Yeah.
Is what I heard.
Yeah. And you're out there for your defense.
Yeah.
No
I
offense.
do have a better chance at 3-on-3 versus 5-on-5, right?
No. Zero. No.
Worse
Way
chance?
harder. Worse chance.
Really?
By a billion.
Shocker.
By a billion. The more players, the better for you.
Oh, gosh. Because 5-on-5 is like way out of the question.
Yeah. No, 3-on-3.
So 3-on-3 is really way out of the question.
Yeah.
I would get attacked every time, is what you're saying.
It would just
Bad.
be. Yeah. Like it's like 11 on 11. I'm sure I could like hide somewhere. But if it was like 3-on-3 soccer,
Tough,
well,
yeah.
actually, what is the equivalent? All right, wait. So what is the equivalent of? So for basketball, 3-on-3 is this like reduced, I guess, version that you can still play and it's competitive. What is it for soccer?
Oh, 5v5.
All right. So what's your retired team?
5v5. Okay. I did a 5v5 team that also will double as my best chance WNBA players. So these are the 5 best players
Well, then mine has to change if we're doing it that
who
way.
can do both.
Although Candace stays. Candace is
Yeah.
a good soccer player.
Yeah, she can
Yeah.
be goalie. Okay, my
No,
team
she's
is
a good soccer player.
Lauren Cheney,
Okay.
me, obviously. Lauren Holiday, but Lauren Cheney, me, Alyssa Naeher,
Mm-hmm.
Allie Krieger, and Sam Mua. Sam can be our resident tall.
Is Sam taller than Alyssa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sam's like 6 feet tall.
Yeah,
so
Sam's tall.
She's our tallest player.
Alyssa's tall too.
That's the only height we have. I feel like we could really at least score 1 basket.
Okay.
So that's and
who are you playing?
That's my
so
5v5
you think
team.
if that team is playing Maya Moore, Tamika Catchings, Candace Parker, Cappy Pondexter, myself, which I'm
Yes.
probably the one they have the best chance of scoring on. Man, Katie or Penny, this is so hard. All right, I'm actually going to take Penny because Dee's not available and I need one from the family. You think your team can score?
1 basket? Yeah.
One
I'm
basket.
having Cheney post you up. That's what's happening.
Who do you think this is over here?
I don't know, but Cheney is
I'm
really
little
good
compared
back
to
to
these
goal.
people, not soccer
Cheney
people.
is good at basketball, and she's
I need to
really
see
good
this.
back to goal. And
Back to what?
back to goal,
Basket.
same thing. And that is where I'm putting my money.
You think you're going to get
It's-
one basket?
It's our best shot.
I'll foul her.
She'll
On a
make the free throws.
non-shooting. No, in a non-shooting way.
Okay, well, we're gonna keep going back to it until we get in the bonus.
Okay.
Yeah,
No way.
this is our best shot. Or
Zero
on
chance.
a steal, someone shot the gap and we can get a layup.
We have a better chance beating you in soccer than you have beating
That's
us in
probably
basketball.
true. Anything could happen in soccer at any time.
No, I'm joking.
I know.
But I would like to see if you guys would score a
The
point.
soccer
Would you
basketball
score a point? Maybe
crossover.
that's a poll we need to put out to the masses.
Yeah.
Would you guys score a basket?
Me personally, I wouldn't, but
All right.
unless I'm like hawking a 3 from half court at the end of the quarter and it just so happens to go in.
This is a great time to switch gears. What do you think? To the second most beautiful game?
The
We
first
mentioned
most
earlier-
we are the beautiful
We
game,
mentioned
Sue.
earlier, Naomi Girma becomes the first $1 million player in
Mhm.
women's soccer. Megan, what does this mean?
Well, this is really exciting for Naomi. Obviously, she's sort of like been in the transfer market for, I feel like months now. It was like Arsenal was in and then Lyon came in with kind of a late push, but ultimately she's landed at Chelsea. Really excited for her. In terms of like the $1 million mark, 'cause this is a $1 million transfer fee. And then obviously she will, negotiate her wages, which I want to know what they are. I hope they broke the bank and I hope she asked for a ton and Chelsea gave her a ton. But this is just a transfer fee. So that was what was paid to San Diego Wave from Chelsea to get the rights to Naomi. I mean, I think the next highest one was like 760 or something, which was Rachel Kundanaji, and she went to play at Bay FC. There's been a couple other in the sevens, and obviously, incrementally lower than that. I feel like it's big because it's just like a marker, $1 million marker, but I think it does speak to this sort of like overall growth and development and investment in women's football globally. Obviously, the U.S. is investing heavily. We saw another expansion team come into the NWSL at a $110 million price tag, which is double what the last ones came in at. That's huge. So in terms of just like the actual like specific transfer, it's not like it went from, 700,000 to like 10 million, but it is big. And it's a great signal that these teams are going to pay this much. I think it's really interesting, Naomi, as a very young player, going to Europe at this stage in her career. I think traditionally it's been just like more difficult to play on the national team and to be playing overseas. But I feel like the U.S. is kind of shifting its calendar a little bit more towards Europe, or those things are kind of coming together a little bit more. So like, is kind of the global world of soccer leagues coming a little bit closer together? Obviously, there's other American players that play in Europe. Emily Fox plays over there. Lindsey Horan plays over there. Corbin Albert plays over there. So there's like a number of players. I'm probably missing some, but maybe that's a signal of like players are going to be able to kind of just like play anywhere, and there's not really a big impact or sort of a big weight on their shoulders if they play somewhere else. I wonder if she'll be there for a very long time. I know she likes to go there and visit, but that was more of a vacation vibe. That's totally not soccer specific, but I know she's a big fan of London. This is a huge loss, I think, for the NWSL and for the Wave specifically. Obviously, they kind of came out of the gate really strong. They were league champions the first year, but it's kind of devolved pretty quickly. Not only did they lose, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but not only did they lose Naomi Girma on a player request to move, but Jaden Shaw also, who's only 20 years old.
Well, why don't we just get into that? Like
also
the NWSL
requested.
has had a ton of movement. It's giving, what we know in basketball is the transfer portal. It's giving portal vibes. What is going on?
Yeah. Well, I think the new contract, the new collective bargaining agreement for the players is much more like player movement friendly, and really just the vibe of like, you should be playing somewhere where you want to play. So I think trade requests seem to be being honored a lot more. There's real free agency, so even players in free agency moving. Gothams, the baddies have experienced this probably the most. This seems to be like a lot of players leaving. So I don't know exactly what's going on there, but it does make a question. There's rumors that Jenna Nightswanger is going to be joining Emily Fox at Arsenal on a $100,000 transfer fee. Delaney Sheehan went to Houston Dash. Yasmin Ryan went to Houston Dash. Lynn Williams obviously was traded to my beloved Seattle Reign, and Sam Hyatt was traded to Portland. So I think just in general, there's a much more favorable environment for player movement. Mm-hmm. But I do think this is a big loss for the NWSL. Naomi specifically, who's one of our best and brightest young stars, for San Diego to not be able to keep her. I don't know exactly what's going on there. I know they hired a new coach, and it's kind of a bummer they had to learn this way. It's going to be tough to build back. You don't always get the opportunity to have a Jaden Shaw and a Naomi Girma in your ranks. So to lose them is big, but also I think it's great for players. Like, you should play where you feel like your development is going to be handled the best, and where you're going to be able to grow and be where you want to be. And again, to my point earlier, like playing on the national team and playing overseas isn't really an issue anymore. So maybe we'll see more of this, but also in the reverse direction as well, of European players coming and playing in the NWSL.
So with all the movement you've just highlighted, which NWSL team do you think is like separating themselves right now? I know we'll see that they're actually in training camp.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like done and dusted, no?
Yeah. World's longest preseason, always. No.
Are moves still being made?
I think,
and who do you think is separating themselves?
Yeah, I think moves are still able to be made.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. All right. So who's separating themselves?
Well, I feel like teams that are taking a really like 360 approach. So like the sporting side of things, which is like the soccer side of things, needs to be locked in. You need to have a good training facility for players. You need to invest off of the field. You need to invest in sort of like the front office. So I feel like DC, obviously, we hear about Michelle King all the time, but they're doing a great job, and they have a great young roster that they're building around. Obviously, Trinity Rodman being the sort of crown jewel in that. KC Current, I think, are doing a great job. They're very well resourced. They obviously built their own stadium. They built their own practice facility. Vlatko Andonovski, head coach there, has a ton of great people on staff. And so they're kind of like doing it from a 360 approach. Orlando as well has they have struggled a lot historically, but also they have a good training facility. They have a stadium to play in. They're investing in their players on the field. And so I say the 360 approach, I think it sort of insulates you a little bit from, listen, sometimes you don't get the players that you want on the field, but it's like it's still easy to recruit because you have a great training facility and you have a great stadium or you have a great coach. And so like you're less susceptible to sort of like taking one pin out or taking one pillar out and the whole thing falling down. You have a better foundation. So I think the current DC and Orlando Pride are the ones that I find will probably be again in the running to be the best teams next year.
So what does that mean for Angel City? Because they just built their new performance center. Doesn't that like put them in that category?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think it starts to put them in that category. Obviously, they have been one of the best in terms of, game day experience and the brand and all that. But then like their sporting project hasn't been very good. They are, losing more games than they're winning all the time. They obviously just built a great new or sort of like retrofitted practice facility. I think that makes it so much easier to recruit players. Still, the coaching position is kind of up in the air. At the end of last year, they didn't fire their manager right away. Then they fired her late. Then they fired the GM. And even sort of at the beginning of this year, we're like, didn't have those positions filled. They're filled now. Mark Parsons is the new GM who's been, a coach internationally as well as in the NWSL for a long time. He's going to be basically overseeing the soccer side of things. And then Sam Lady, who actually was our assistant coach in Seattle for a very long time, is the interim manager. So I don't know how long he'll be there or what sort of like project that they are having under him. But it seems to me they're signaling that he's sort of coming in to steady the ship a little bit, but that they're looking for a more high profile, more permanent manager. So I think this is a big step in the right direction for them, but I think they have a long ways to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that takes us to our new segment that we're introducing right now. Take it away.
Welcome to Extra Time with Megan. We just have one thing in Extra Time today, so it'll be short.
Soccer loves some extra time.
As with Extra Time, it could be 1 minute or 101 minutes. So we
TBD.
don't know. It's totally arbitrary. Alyssa Naeher was named U.S. Soccer Female Player of the Year, only the second goalkeeper to win that award. And I think it's important because I think it's difficult for a goalkeeper, especially in the U.S., because we're so good and we win so much that like usually it's not the goalkeeper, the one that's getting. It's usually the one scoring on the goals. But this really speaks to her impact on the field, certainly with a gold medal win last year at the Paris Olympics. But I think to her sort of impact on the team and off the field and just the unbelievable run she's had the last number of years. She just announced her retirement from international soccer. She's still playing with the Chicago NWSL team, so you can still see her there. But big congrats to Lissy. Love you so much. This is so well-deserved and cool to see a player in a position that doesn't normally get this honor just perform so out of her skin that it was bestowed upon her. So
yeah,
shout out to Liz.
Congrats to her. And if you had said she'd post me up, like maybe, but Cheney, Lauren Holiday, the more I think about it, it's just not happening.
Oh no, Cheney was sensational.
Well, I'm just like, how do you think the
really
ball's going to get down the court? I'm just like reviewing all of this.
Like, well, you guys can't pick us up full court. That's just unfair.
Oh, we can't play by the rules.
No,
okay.
You can't play by the rules.
Got it.
So please.
And that's all we have for Extra Time with Megan.
Vox Creative.
This is advertiser content from L'Oréal Paris. Over the past few months, we've heard from several extraordinary Women of Worth honorees. And now we'll hear from the leader at the heart of this inspiring program.
My name is Allie Goldstein. I'm president of the L'Oréal Paris brand in the U.S.
For nearly 20 years, L'Oréal Paris Women of Worth has celebrated extraordinary women making a difference in their communities.
You go through your day and you're facing so many challenges that you sometimes forget all of the good that you do. That's really what Because I'm Worth It is about. It's about what this program is about.
Nominations for the 2025 cohort are officially open. If you know someone who's making a real impact, or if you yourself are leading the charge, we encourage you to submit a nomination today.
You can go and nominate either a woman you know, or you can even nominate yourself. And really what we're looking for are women who are addressing issues that others don't really want to talk about, issues facing other women, and women who are running organizations that are giving back to their communities.
Now's your chance to remind yourself and others that the good they do matters, that they matter, that they are worthy of this life-changing opportunity.
We are extremely proud that this program has been going on for 20 years, and it really speaks to the importance of it. I think especially now, recognizing women who are doing work in their local communities, it's more relevant now than ever before.
Each honoree receives $25,000 to support their charitable cause, mentorship from the L'Oréal Paris Network, and a national platform to amplify their stories and their work. Nominations are open now through March 8th, International Women's Day, on l'orealparis.com. Go do it!
All right, now we're headed into the intersection in yet another example of women's sports hitting mainstream culture. I really am going to enjoy this one. On the January 20th episode of Jeopardy, Jen Feldman, a contestant, made it to Final Jeopardy, and she didn't have an answer. She put $2,600, but didn't have an answer. So instead, she wrote, "Watch more women's sports."
Love it.
Absolutely love that. So we heard from our friend Sarah Spain, who hosts the Good Game podcast, that Jen was hoping to get a shout out from me. She said something about, maybe I'm her favorite player or something like that. So
That sounds right.
Let's take a listen to Jen explain her Jeopardy experience.
I am the contestant from Jeopardy last week, which filmed in November, which was just a few weeks after my beloved New York Liberty won their first championship. I actually got to spend some of my winnings to go see that historic run in person. Anyway, in my final tournament game of Jeopardy, I didn't know the answer to a Final Jeopardy clue about Cold War submarines. So instead, I wrote, "What is Watch More Women's Sports?" with a little heart. I didn't even make it a question because we are past that. I was extra inspired to give this shout out after I learned that I was the only woman out of the 15 contestants in the tournament. And I've gotten really cool feedback from a lot of people saying how much they've been enjoying women's sports and watching it more than ever, and how they're excited about Unrivaled. And Sue has always been just a huge hero to me as a fellow queer, culturally Jewish, Ukrainian point guard from, that's how I identify, from Queens and the New York City suburbs. She's just always been the coolest athlete and human to look up to. Love you guys. Go Huskies. Bye.
We share all the stats.
This is
Just
so
bam,
cute.
bam, bam. Even the queens.
I love this about women's sports. So I really do feel like it's always like doing multiple things. And it's like so cool that she's connecting these together when she's like going to this Jeopardy thing where she's the only woman.
Yeah.
And like you've been her inspiration probably just like in her life beyond sports her whole life. So this is so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty
It
cool.
warms my heart.
So Jen, special shout out to you. Thank you for sharing your story. And I think you can agree, fuck Cold War submarines.
Yeah, what?
Like, what the fuck?
Why is that a question? Come on.
Sounds hard. So this actually reminded me of another Jeopardy moment that you and me, Megan, share. So do you remember for your 37th birthday, we were apart for like weeks and weeks. And so, there's only so much you can do when you're trying to get somebody a gift. So for Megan's 37th birthday, I got her this cameo.
Hi, Megan. It's Amy Schneider. Happy birthday. So somebody appears to be playing some sort of prank on me because supposedly this request came from Sue Bird and is for Megan Rapinoe, as in that Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe, as in the reigning queens of gay. So that feels like it can't be right.
This cameo was from Amy Schneider. Amy won 40 consecutive games on Jeopardy. She was also in the Tournament of Champions. She holds the second longest win streak in the program's history, only behind Ken Jennings. She also hosted the show. Her streak is the longest win streak by a woman, and she's the most successful woman and most successful transgender contestant ever to compete on the show. Collectively, she made $1.6 million in winnings. Who better to wish you happy birthday?
Nobody. We love a Jeopardy.
We love Jeopardy.
We love
watch
Jeopardy, and we love a queer on Jeopardy.
Yeah. It reminded me of that moment.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share. But yeah, amazing by Jen Feldman. Extra amazing by Amy Schneider.
Yeah.
And there you have it. That's our intersection for this week.
Okay, this week, everybody, we have a little Are You a Megan or Are You a Sue to serve up to you. This one is universal because it has to do with a phone. I am not a cell phone case kind of gal, and Sue really is. Honestly,
Very much so.
You may think that my phone looks crazy. It doesn't. It is sturdy, and she understands the kind of wear and tear she's going to get when she's my phone, okay?
But it's the threat
I'm careful.
of the drop.
I am as
When you
careful as I
drop
can
it,
be.
your heart also drops.
No.
And that is why I use a case.
No, because I know
I like
it's
my
sturdy.
heart to stay in place.
The cases are too grippy. They're too...
So they do their job.
They're too...
So you're complaining that the case does its job.
Yes. I'm complaining the case
Is
does
this
its
turning
job.
into a bicker? We don't mean for this to be a bicker.
It's not.
This is a pure...
It's just like I put it in my pocket and it kind
Are
of
you a
sticks
Megan
and it's weird. And
or
then
are
it's
you a
like,
Sue?
it doesn't slide around. Like my phone's just like nice. It's a nice mint color. It like feels good in my hand. It feels good when I slide it into my pocket. It's easy to slide out of my pocket.
Do I have to be worried about your phone? The way you're talking about it is...
Listen, I love my phone and I don't want to sully it with a case that's too grippy.
We don't need many words for this
But,
one.
yeah.
Are you a Megan or are you a Sue? Do you use a phone case or do you not?
Yeah. Let us know. And let us know the reasons.
Yeah, we need to know why.
Call us at 1-866-A-TOUCH-8 or leave a comment on our YouTube. Again, 1-866-A-TOUCH-8. Let us know, are you a Megan or are you a Sue and why?
Just a touch more, a little bit. Just a touch more.
Yeah.
All right, on to a touch more. Madison Keys won the Australian Open, and I mean, watching it, reading about it, it really was a remarkable journey. She turns 30 next month, so she's 29 currently, and that makes her the oldest first-time women's single champion in the tournament history. Madison Keys, for those that don't know, a lot of her story revolves around kind of being this like young phenom. At 14, she already had won her first WTA tournament. So she had a lot of hype, but then didn't get a Grand Slam until now. So 16 years later. And it actually reminds me of when Diana Taurasi was like, why can't old people dream too? Because I think when you get to a certain age, right, especially if you've had a lot of hype, especially if you haven't, done the thing and won the thing, people do start to question you a little bit. And my favorite part of the story is that early on, part of her game was power, right? Part of her strengths, literal strength, but also just strengths of her game was power. But she didn't really lean into it. It was causing a lot of errors, so she didn't really lean in. But recently, she has started to do that. And of course, what that means is, with that power in tennis, you might have a couple errors, but you kind of have to just take those on the chin and keep it going. And it seems like this has unlocked something for her in her game. So it was really exciting to see. Definitely congrats to her. But Megan, it actually got me thinking, and I was curious, have you ever faced that in your career where you just had a moment where you started to lean into something different in your game and it kind of unlocked some things for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, yeah, shout out Madison Keys. This is awesome. Having an American win the Australian Open. It's bucket list for me. Not to win the Australian Open, obviously, but to go. So this is just like so cool. We love it for you. Congrats. Yeah, I feel like I have had this. I was a little bit in general, just like a late bloomer. And I feel like other skills kind of had to be developed just in my game. But I feel like just in general, like when you get to the highest level, everyone can do something special. And I think sometimes the the trap is to try to be like, okay, well, that player's playing ahead of me, so I'm going to try to do what they're doing or do what they're doing. It's like, of course, you want to have a well-rounded game, but also like, what is your strength? You need to be great at that and like never let that go. Always continue to grow that and have that sort of be the main thing. I mean, for me, that was like, I think my passing and creativity, and like I wasn't ever going to be bigger or stronger or faster than anyone. So how can I continue to like lean into that even when it wasn't always successful for me? And I feel like I had to kind of like grow that and sort of like develop that part of my game. But I love the idea that this is like something that maybe she hasn't leaned into and maybe she hasn't really like honed over the course of her career. And now, you know, at the age of 30, like Dee said, it's never too old to dream. And, you know, to bring the best parts of your game out, that this is really paying off for her. What about you? Is there something you...
The end of my career was different. I think it was more, I was like more limited because of mainly my knee. So I had to highlight other areas. It wasn't like I had neglected an area and I was bringing that back out. So it's a little different. But early in my career, I did my first WNBA season. I averaged a lot of turnovers. A lot of rookies do, as we know. And I had our assistant coach at the time was Carrie Graff, who you know, Australian.
Yeah.
Graffy. So shout out Graffy. And she ended up not coming back to the Storm for my second year. She moved on, but one of her like parting words, I think it was in an exit interview or something like that, was she actually wanted me to turn the ball over more. She was like, listen, going into next season.
Say less.
I know. I was like, on it. She was like, going into next season, I would actually love for you to take more risks. And if you can't figure out what she was saying, it's the only way to know and kind of establish your like system for risk taking, right? Like to calibrate that is to do it. You have to get a feel for it and understand it. And then from there, so, you know, you might go from averaging 3 turnovers to 6, but eventually that's going to drop to 1 because you're going to figure it out. It didn't actually play out that way, like exactly, but it always was in the back of my head. Like be a risk taker, like take risks and figure it out after that. I guess it didn't play out that way because it's not like my turnovers doubled, but the point still stands and it really helped me.
I like it.
Yeah. All right, a touch more info before we go. Athletes Unlimited begins February 5th. Quick reminder on that format, because it's a little different. The teams change weekly via a draft. So there's this leaderboard where each individual player can get points based on their play, both negative and positive. So that's interesting. And also like wins and losses. That's ultimately how they win. So the winner of this league is an individual player who has accumulated, the most points throughout the course. But with each week, as I mentioned, they change teams. And so what happens is based on performance, based on a couple other things, they've actually changed their method for choosing the captains. So you might want to go to the website to check that out. There's a captain each week, and those captains draft teams. Then those teams play, players get points, so on and so forth. So that starts, like I said, February 5th. There's some players, names you know that you can check out. Lexi Brown will be back in action. One of our faves, Alicia Clark, will be playing. Megan's fave.
I love Alyssa Peely.
Yeah, Alyssa Peely will be in the house. And of course, the faces of the WNBA, Sydney Colson and Teresa Plaisance. So
it's fun, Neil. Lots of basketball. Lots of basketball to watch. That's it for our episode, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you to L'Oréal Paris for supporting A Touch More. As women, it can be really hard to recognize the positive impact we make every day. We work so hard to bring even the tiniest bit of good to others' lives. The L'Oréal Paris Women of Worth program is a chance to celebrate the hard work of women nonprofit leaders who are changing the world for the better. Now's your chance to champion the changemakers in your communities. Nominations for the 2025 Women of Worth program are open now through March 8th, 2025, International Women's Day, on L'Orealparis.com.